I thought I would do this video from my balcony. Soon these trees will be full of leaves. This is where some crows came by. The branches right close to my balcony is where it sat and just slept. One crow and two other crows were around it. And they say good things happen when a crow shows up. So, I wanted to do a video today on, I seen two really interesting videos. This, The Great Awakening, or The Awakening. Search it out. It's a really good video. The guy's been doing somewhat of a radio show for years, kind of on the same information as I'm dealing with, slightly different. And then I seen this other Project Camelot video on this lady that says breaking karma and forgiveness, and it was so full of crap. So I thought I'd touch up on what this awakening is all about, and getting rid of the karma that we seem to be dealing with and repeating. And forgiveness for a lot is, you can't just forgive and, move on, forget about it. Your brain will not work that way. It's blocking and dealing. And that advice has never worked throughout time. The best true way of forgiveness is understanding your enemy. Why is your enemy acting the way your enemy is acting? Why is everybody doing what it is they're doing? And when you can put yourself in their shoes and see that you would act exactly the same way they are acting, then you're like, holy shit, I'd be doing exactly the same thing as he's doing. That's sort of what I had to do with my ex. And when I started making this channel, part of it was about doing a forgiveness list. And I was mad at the whole freaking world, because not only was I mad at my ex for doing everything he was doing, I was mad at food banks because they were giving me free food, and it's like, why didn't you do so much work to help me keep the food that I worked so hard at? Why is it society builds women's shelters instead of protecting women and children? Why aren't laws that we create that says this is how society works? Why is it we aren't following these laws? Why is it all of society is supporting a system that doesn't work? We all know the justice system isn't fair. We all know it's dysfunctional, but it's the best we've got. Surely if we can put people on the moon, we can improve on our justice system, especially if we recognize that it's not very good. It's not the best we've got. It's the only thing that we want to keep. And, so it's like, which person in society isn't supporting a justice system? So you're on my hate list. Anybody that's involved in a nonprofit, you're on my hate list. Because you are all putting band-aids on problems. That as soon as somebody's hungry, you'll go out and, out of good intentions, put food, and you'll work volunteer to get me that food. And it's like, why is it you're not looking at a few steps before that and see why I didn't need food? There are people starving all over the world. There's a cause to everything. Nobody is awake to what's causing everything that's wrong. You just see something wrong and be there to help. And you got to stop the causes. Otherwise, the causes grow into the proportion where it's starting to affect us globally. So, my process was, okay, I'm mad, and I'm mad at the whole friggin' world. Now, if I put myself in everybody else's shoes, I would do exactly the same thing. If I was dealing with limited information and thought I was doing the right thing, I would appear like I'm doing harm to somebody. So it's, for my ex-husband, what I came to understand is he was born into a family that kept making him feel like he was not loved. His father came out of a war experience. His father was very abusive. His father demeaned and put his children down. The only one that gained acceptance was the one that was extremely greedy, extremely manipulative. She graduated college with 2 diplomas, started a business, really, really manipulative, would stab anybody in the back, and she's the hero of the family because she's very, very successful. Where my husband, I think, is a very loving person, but he doesn't love himself. And when we had kids, the best father came out with his first son, but as soon as my son turned 5, it's almost like he lost himself and was no longer that great father, that potential he had within inside himself. It's almost like he started doubting himself, and it's because he needed to earn a living to support these kids, and he did not like working. Probably because he never felt he was good enough. He never felt like he was doing what his heart was singing at. He was always forced to do something that somebody else wanted him to do. He could never ever find a job for himself. I was always the one that found the job for him, and he never liked any of those jobs that I found for him. But he never... I did so much to support him in what he wanted to be... actually working for Hydro and cutting trees down. He was really into nature, so supported him on that. Actually gave birth to my last daughter while he was in school. We all sacrificed so much anytime he did come up with a good idea. He wanted to be a park ranger, so we sold everything, moved across the country, lived in a small trailer, lived on low-income housing. We did everything to move him into an area where his heart would sing. But it didn't work out for him. He didn't put enough of himself into it. He didn't believe in himself to make it actually work for himself. So he was constantly setting himself up to be a failure. And he was the one that was doing it to him. Now, being the mother of 4 kids and having the pressures of managing everything, being the one in control of everything, because people needed to get fed and nobody was standing up for the job. My role was somewhat probably controlling, which probably made him feel that all his money was going towards me, which it didn't. It went towards the food he was eating, towards the truck he wanted to drive, towards the house he wanted to live in. Yes, I used his money, but I used his money to buy his stuff and make it work for him and for my kids to the best of my ability. So I was probably perceived as very selfish and controlling and manipulating, where I left because he didn't want to take responsibility, because he didn't want to create his own life, because he didn't want to learn how to spend his own money. But he doesn't get that part. He's recreating his reality so people take advantage of him, but nobody's taking advantage of him. He's the one that's looking after himself all the time. He's the one that didn't pay any of his child support, that needed to have that big $300,000 house so that his parents would love him now and think he was successful. His family were completely blind that you're not feeding your kids. And that's ultimately what he was going for, is is to be loved and accepted. So I can understand why he did everything he did. I can understand why he needed this house to gain that love and acceptance from his parents. It's the only way. And all of us are looking for this love and acceptance from our parents. But